What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Cartoon Season. I'm Tyler, and this is always, like I say all the time, this is about animation, cartoons, anime. Usually I talk about shows, but sometimes I talk about movies. Here's another one today. We're gonna do Shrek, the first one, of course. Yeah, good movie. Lots of nostalgia here. This is one of those movies that I owned on VHS at the time, and I probably watched it dozens of times at this point. And great movie. I feel like it's come back around and like it's kind of become like a meme at this point. But legitimately, away from the memes, it is a good movie. Just funny. I didn't do any research, but like, wasn't this one of those movies that like people were sent to? What wasn't this one of the, or maybe that was Emperor's New Groove? I think, didn't that happen too? No, I'm pretty sure it was Shrek. Wasn't Shrek the movie where it was like DreamWorks was working on something else, and then whenever an employee in DreamWorks wasn't doing what the heads, like the suits, wanted them to do or something, or they weren't working in the way they want them to do, they like sent him over to work on Shrek. Shrek was like the like gulag basically, and then, which is funny because then Shrek comes out and it's like their most successful movie ever, and it spawns 3 sequels. It's really funny. Again, I did no research beforehand. I remember that's something that I heard of, but maybe I'm thinking of the wrong movie. Maybe it wasn't Shrek. I'm pretty sure it was Shrek though. So yeah, go Google that. Because if it's true, it's a very funny story. We're talking about Shrek. Some of the things I want to touch on today. I want to talk about the buddy cop aspect of it with Shrek and Donkey. Best part of the movie, honestly. I do want to mention some of the nods to various fairy tale creatures, because it's very nice how they incorporate that into the world building of this. Then I do want to mention some stuff about the Fiona twist and how just perfect it is for what kind of story this wanted to tell. Before I get into that, as I always say, go check out the Tiger T YouTube channel. Check out more episodes of this, as well as any other podcast platform you want to listen to this on. We are going to get started with the buddy cop relationship between Shrek and Donkey. It's really awesome. Like Donkey, like I'm not gonna say Donkey. Both of them together bring the comedy. All right. But then also it's more than just funny. It's more than just they're two very different people put together in some weird situations. Like no, it's also they do grow together to the point where they are like family basically. Just start from the top. Just with their character, Shrek is basically just this like cranky loner. Doesn't want to meet anyone, doesn't want to talk to anyone, just wants to be left alone in his swamp. Whereas Donkey is a very loud, sort of like free spirit. Doesn't really want to be tied down anywhere, just wants to meet people, talk to them, have fun, that sort of thing. So two very different people at this point. One of my favorite lines, or I guess maybe not lines, but more like interactions in this whole movie, is towards the very beginning when Donkey's being there and he's being all loud and stuff, and he wants to be with Shrek, right? He wants a friend, and Shrek just isn't having it. And Shrek kind of has, or Shrek, I think I said Shrek. Shrek has this like little outburst where he's like, "I'm an ogre, doesn't that bother you?" And Donkey's just like, "No," which is amazing, because that is probably the first time Shrek has ever had that reaction to him before, because his whole life he's spent inducing fear, whether intentionally or unintentionally, to everyone around him. No one wants to step within a 30-foot radius of this dude. And even to the point of further than fear, to like hatred, where they actively want to like hunt him for a reward, even though Shrek isn't really doing anything wrong. He's just in a swamp chilling, maybe, taking some animals here and there to eat him. I don't remember what he eats, even though he had a whole feast. I don't know, some like animals basically, which isn't different than humans, unless you're a vegetarian, but whatever. Yeah, he ain't harming nobody. So like he's used to people being angry at him or being fearful of him, and Donkey is neither. Donkey's just like, you're cool. I want to be your friend. I want to hang out with you, And you see that in his face slightly when Donkey says no. He's just like, oh, really? And then Donkey has some joke. I think he maybe makes fun of his breath or something. I forget, but that really is the start to their relationship and the start to Shrek. A little bit of feeling in his chest of like, oh, this is something I never felt before. Then we go further down. We learn more about how much Donkey is very rambunctious, but also sincere. Like he has a whole thing where he wants to do all this stuff with Shrek, and he ends it with saying that he wants to make waffles. In the morning, I'm gonna make waffles. We're gonna have a good time, good breakfast. We're gonna hang out. But he has to sleep outside. So again, we just see that dichotomy where Donkey has already a laundry list of things that he wants to do with Shrek, as friends would do. And Shrek is like, no, I'm not having it. And he's not having it so much that he makes Donkey sleep outside, which kind of blockades everything he wants to do, because there's a literal and figurative wall between us. Then we get a little bit later to one of the most infamous scenes of this entire movie is the ogres are like onions scene. Really, really clever, honestly. To say that ogres are like onions. You peel it back, got the layers. I'm not just a face value type of guy. Really good message there. And then we have, again, Donkey bringing the comedy where he mentions like no one likes onions. Like that's why would you compare yourself to onions? What about cake? Cakes have layers. Shrek's like, no, we're not cake. Trust me, we're far from cake. And then he goes into parfait, which is hilarious. It's like, no, parfait, everyone likes parfait. What does he say? I think he says like, parfait might be the greatest thing on the planet or something. It's the greatest invention. Very, very good. A little bit later, we have another one where they're wrestling together. Shrek is doing most of the heavy lifting, but even then, again, we're now physically working together. It's not just like a working relationship. A little bit later, we have Shrek, another great scene where Shrek is pushing Donkey across the lava bridge, where, in a sense, yes, I think Shrek is having a lot of pleasure, in this moment, messing with Donkey, being very sarcastic, pushing him across the bridge, knowing that Donkey does not want this. He is scared out of his mind. So like there's one aspect there where Shrek's just doing it to bust his chops. But there's another aspect where, again, I think at that point in the movie, I think we've already reached a point in their relationship where they are friends at the very least. And what do friends do? Friends mess with each other, but not only is the messing with each other a friend thing, but Shrek was also doing it for his own good and being like, no, Donkey, like, you can do this. You can cross the bridge. Like, this bridge will not defeat you, and he proved it. Like, Donkey opened his eyes and he was like, oh, I crossed it, Donkey would have never crossed that bridge if Shrek wasn't there. So again, messing with each other, yes, but also helping each other out and making each other realize, each other's capabilities, which again, very, very friend thing to do. And then we have a funny moment here again, with how like opposites attract and the different situations they find each other in, and how the show puts them in opposing situations. So, of course, instead of the flip being true, Shrek is the one who actually ends up finding Fiona, where Donkey is the one who finds the dragon. It was supposed to be flipped. Shrek was going to fight the dragon, have a good time there. He's more equipped for it. Donkey was going to just find Fiona, get in, get out. But we have the funnier of the two scenarios happening. And it works because Shrek is not very good with people. So for him to find a person and have to be like, all right, there's a situation, let's get out of here. It's comedic, right? And then Donkey, being who Donkey is, really not a fighter, not a lot of strength anyway, to find the dragon and have to fight it. It's comedic. A little bit later, we got them again. Instead of them opposing each other just based on their own character traits, they're now lumped together in the scene where Fiona is fighting the merry men, Robin Hood, merry men, whatever. So now they're not looked at as two characters, two sides of the same coin. Now they're lumped together as one character almost, though, the one character that is useless in the situation because Fiona is so crazy with the athleticism and the fighting skills and everything. So right there, we don't see one specializing one thing, one specializing the other, because they're both equally useless in this situation. And so it's nice because, again, we're now looking at them as just a group rather than two individual characters that are just doing something to reach an end goal. And then we got another great scene where they're talking about appearances while under the stars. This is more of just a tell, don't show, where it is more of them just talking to each other about just life, having a more like philosophical conversation. They've gotten to a point where they can do that comfortably. And then both really realizing that they've had similar issues with everyone, like they have both kind of been tossed out for who they are, because obviously different situations, but still with the same end result. And that's kind of, it's, I don't know, poetic, I guess. Maybe I'm giving the movie too much credit, but that's how they found each other, because they're both tossed out. No one really wants them because of who they are, and they work perfectly together. And then on that point, we start to see more rough patches after we've seen them pretty much come together and, at least surpass all of their differences to be friends. We start to see Donkey becoming the third wheel because Fiona's there. Very, very sad. We start to see how they both act in that situation. And you're just really upset the whole time watching the screen because Fiona's great and everything, but we've started this movie being like, okay, these two characters don't like each other. No, they don't like each other, but they don't know each other. Then going to acquaintances and then going to friends, maybe even teetering on family. And then another character gets introduced, and even though they're not an evil character or a bad character, it's still ruining what we've seen this whole movie built up until this point, and it just sucks, But again, it's intentional. The movie's supposed to make you feel that way. And then what do we got? And then that's even more exemplified when a misunderstanding is what creates a rift between Shrek and Donkey and Fiona. Don't mention Fiona too much though, because I'm more focusing on the Shrek and Donkey relationship. But that does cause an argument between them, where they just can't reach common ground because of both of their understanding of what just happened and what was said or what wasn't said, and then we see them break up, pretty much, which sucks. Because again, like I just mentioned in the last point, we've seen this whole movie. It's finally gone to a point where we love it and they're friends and they're together and there's a great relationship, great dynamic, and then it's in one night it is destroyed. We're like, oh no, well, no, this is not how we want the movie to end. But we do get a nice reconciliation scene with Donkey going back to the swamp, and Shrek finds him building a wall, a very sad wall, but more figurative than literal wall through the swamp. They have an argument about whose swamp it is, all that stuff. Donkey argues that, well, no, I mean, we were partners. I did half the work, so I get half the reward, which his math checks out, in my opinion. His math definitely checks out. But it does cause them to, it's a type of scene we've seen a million times, but it is something that they just butt heads so much that actually cracks the egg of truth. And, they finally open up to communication and they both realize what happened. Shrek more so apologetic than Donkey because Shrek has more to apologize for, but, it does end up with them being together interrupting the wedding, which is wild, but it was necessary to get to the very happy ending, where everyone loves each other and all the bad guys lose. But yeah, I mean, again, like it was just nice to see the relationship grow, and we'd had just many rough patches, especially the one towards the end. But again, that just shows you how strong and how necessary this is for both of their lives. Is that the relationship did endure it all? You know, we didn't end the movie with them going their separate ways, right? Because if we did, that would tell us a lot. You know, that would say quite a bit. But yeah, very good. Obviously, the anchor to the movie is these two characters and how they interact with each other. And so, I just wanted to give, some examples. Also, go through briefly the history and the timeline and everything. Because next we're moving to, not really a deep topic. More surface level, but something I just wanted to mention, especially if you guys decide to stick around for when I do the other movies, because I'm very much a completionist. So you're hearing me do Shrek 1 right now. I'm definitely doing Shrek 2, 3, and 4, and 5 if it ever comes out. Pretty sure 5 has been rumored for years, and I think didn't like Illumination. Wasn't it rumored that Illumination, if you don't know, is the studio that did Despicable Me, Secret Life of Pets, Sing, The Grinch, a bunch of other stuff. I'd say they're most known for Despicable Me. Good studio. I feel like the studio gets a lot of flack, but I feel like overall they are a solid studio. Wasn't it? I don't know if it was confirmed, but I know at the very least it was very heavily rumored that they were gonna do Shrek 5, which is crazy to me because it's owned by DreamWorks. And I don't think DreamWorks and Illumination have any sort of relationship. Like, I don't think they have like a parent company. Maybe they do. Maybe I'm wrong. Very weird. Maybe they're doing it like in partner with DreamWorks. I don't know. It'd be like if Sony made the next. If like Sony made Toy Story 5, you'd be like, why? Like, what? Why isn't Pixar doing it, or just maybe another Disney team doing it? Why is Sony? Also, how is Sony making Toy Story 5? It's just weird. But anyway, I don't even know why I went on that tangent. One on Illumination, Shrek 5, right? Other Shrek movies. Okay, so I just want to touch on it because we do get further and further in the series with that. So if you guys stick with me, you'll see the progression and the introduction of even more characters. But I didn't want to touch on the kind of world building they've had with this fairy tale stuff and their own spin on fairy tale creatures. So I just wrote a bunch of them down. Some that you may have mentioned, some that you may have noticed, some that you probably definitely noticed. But probably my favorite one is the 3 blind mice. It's such a good bit, like them going around and them all blind and them like poking stuff with their cane and just like getting into trouble, and but also them being like they're blind but they're very elusive is just hilarious to me. We got the 3 blind mice. We got the grandpa wolf. I'm not really sure what that pulls from. I imagine that's the wolf from Red Riding Hood. Oh yeah, because I guess in the story the wolf did dress up as the grandma, right? And that's how that's how the wolf was able to eat the Red Riding Hood. Side note, did any of you guys out there ever, like, so in my school, my elementary school, about once a week, maybe once every other week, because I feel like it depends, right? Because the way we had it, okay, I'm not going into the whole system of my elementary school, but maybe some other time. But I know when we would go, every so often we would, our class, right? We would go down to the library and we would sit on the rug and the librarian would read a book to us. Now, when you're younger, they do picture books. When you're in like, when do you think you start chapter books? Maybe like 3rd grade is when you really heavily start that, right? Somewhere around there. She would probably read like the first couple chapters of a book to us or something. I always loved that. I always loved listening to stories. I was a big reader as a kid. Then I kind of fell off of it. Now I still read, more so like not really big into books as much, but I'm more into like comics, manga, that kind of thing. Just because I love art, illustrations. But anyway, some of the books were really interesting to me. Like as a kid, I didn't understand it because there are people who have their own spins on like fairy tale books. Like there was one where instead of the 3 little pigs, there was the 3 little wolves, and the wolves were trying to protect themselves from a big bad pig. Very interesting. We had other ones where it was like similar to that, where the wolf wrote a book basically and told it from his side of the story, and it made the wolf seem like the good guy and the wolves like the bad guys. But the reason I brought that up is because there was one where it was like the wolf in Red Riding Hood dressed up, but then like they found out and they cooked and ate the wolf or something. Very wild. I don't know. That was a tangent that was unnecessary. Then we had, just to clip up the grandma wolf thing. It's funny. It's funny because it's like, it's a manly wolf, but he's wearing grandma clothes. Humor. We got Pinocchio, another great character. We see more of him in later movies. I guess that's a spoiler, but with him lying and having the whole thing, and also him being like a very nervous character. It's funny. We got some fairies, which if you're watching on YouTube, there's some example of it right here on the screen when the fairies make Donkey fly. Very cool there. Sleeping Beauty, which we see briefly with the 7 dwarves pushing Sleeping Beauty onto the dinner table, and Shrek being like, no, we're not doing this. Cinderella, we see briefly just in the mirror when Lord Farquaad is picking his bride-to-be. Fiona was an interesting one to me because I don't know if Fiona's actually from something and they used her. Or maybe it's like a nod to Rapunzel, just because Rapunzel is the character to me that is locked in a tower, waiting for Prince Charming to save her. So I don't know if that's just Fiona's just kind of like a copy and paste of Rapunzel, or if it's something more. Because I do know that Shrek itself, like Shrek is a quote-unquote fairy tale, like in real life. Like Shrek was a character from a book that was written, I feel like, isn't it like super long ago? I mean, not that long ago, but I think it was from like, it actually might be a long time ago. I mean, in my mind, I want to say like the 1800s, but there's no basis to that. But yeah, Shrek in itself is somewhat of a fairy tale, the same way that like the Gingerbread Man or something, Then we got Goldilocks and the 3 Bears, which you see briefly, them being like locked up, and then like we have a nice gag there where the baby bear, I think it's called, says that his cage is too small. Very, very funny nod to the Goldilocks story. And then lastly, we already mentioned him, we got Robin Hood, who was part of the Merry Men. So just lots of examples of fairy tale creatures and how we have their nice own spin on them, and also how they're just integrated into the world. Like this is a thing. This isn't like weird to see a fairy tale creature. It's very, very cool stuff there. And then lastly, I do want to touch on the Fiona twist. So I don't know how obvious it was, but I do want to touch on some of the hints. And I'm very interested to see when you guys, if you can think back to when you first watched the movie, like when you realized that was the twist. Again, I don't remember the trailer. Maybe the trailer spoiled it. But yeah, we do start the very first like indication of something is happening is the mirror actually hints at it at the very beginning. When Lord Farquaad picks Fiona and everything, the mirror tries to butt in and say, there's actually something I should let you know about Fiona. And Farquaad is like, no, stop, who cares? And then the mirror is like, no, seriously, there's something like that. Farquaad just interrupts him again, and says, shut up. But yeah, like at the very beginning, you assume that's what the mirror was gonna say, like, hey, well, just one thing, like at night she turns into an ogre. It's a cool little thing there, which is something you really only notice on your second watch. So at the beginning you're just like, you have no idea what he's gonna say, and then by the time it gets revealed, you don't remember the mirror ever did that. And then a little bit more. This could also be the extra reason why she didn't like that Shrek rescued her instead of Prince Charming, because she was very distraught. She said like, "Oh, this is not how this is supposed to happen." And you're assuming it's just because he's an ogre, and she's like, "Well, you're not my Prince Charming. Like, I'm not marrying you. Like, that's not like. There's a way the story is supposed to go, and you're not a part of it." Again, you assume just because it's like, oh, well, she wants Prince Charming. Like, every princess wants Prince Charming. But later on, again, on a rewatch, maybe there's a little bit more. Maybe it's because she herself turns into an ogre, and that has bad feelings for her. Maybe she feels like if this is the road she goes down, then she'll never shake the curse. You know what I mean? There's lots of stuff that could be going on in her mind more than just, well, he's an ogre and he's hideous and he's a monster. Next thing, obviously this is why she slept in the rock house while traveling with Shrek and Donkey. That's why she wanted shelter before the night. She didn't want to travel through the night, and why she took the shelter for herself. I need a door, something that's like, oh, well, obviously you need a door, but she needs a door. She needs everything covered. And also another quick side note, touching on something I did in the first segment with the buddy cop stuff. This is also why you can see her peeking out during the appearances conversation, because she is hearing them talk about it, especially Shrek talk about it, and that's kind of hitting her, Donkey finding her, promises not to tell Shrek. At this point, this is when it's revealed, right? And this is the first time we see Shrek, or like ogre version of her. And that's a nice little scene too. Again, that's the scene that kind of destroys the relationship briefly. But us seeing that for the first time we're kind of freaking out too. But we hear it's Fiona, we see it's Fiona, she got the same hair, same dress and everything, and in that moment Donkey is us, right? And I think the writers did a really good job of finding those parallels. And then again, just like I mentioned, Shrek getting mad overhearing them talk, when a confession would just solve everything. Again, I'm not saying it's Fiona's fault that this friction happened, because confession does not only mean Fiona confessing that this is this is what's happening. I'm an ogre. Not that I'm an ogre, but at night I turn into an ogre. But also confession from Shrek's side, where Shrek would just be more communicative with his feelings and his thoughts, which again, just like how I understand why Fiona has done what she's done so far, I feel the same way about Shrek, where it's like he's never felt this way about someone before. He's never felt anything close to something like this before. He's lived his whole life in seclusion. It took so long, it took a whole movie for him to warm up to Donkey, and he doesn't love Donkey the same way he loves Shrek, you know what I mean? Or Fiona. So for him to feel this way about Fiona, makes sense that he wouldn't be super open with her. But again, from both of their sides, I think just communication, actual communication would have prevented this. And then obviously we end it with the wedding. Big reveal there. That's when Shrek sees her like that for the first time. We got Farquaad in the audience not really digging it, but that leads to his demise. We got the dragon. That's the climax of the movie, right? Very beautiful too. Also a twist on a twist, right? Because the twist itself is that, oh man, Fiona turns into an ogre when she's under moonlight. But also the twist on the twist is that when first true loves kiss or whatever, you assume it's going to keep her in the human form, but instead, because her true love is an ogre, and because this is the part of her that Shrek loves, and the part of her that she grows to love and realize that this is who she is on the inside, not just the outside at night, she is permanently now in the ogre form, and that's like, oh, okay, that's cool. But yeah, that's, again, it's all really nice, twists on twists, and then again, like I already mentioned before, a nice happy ending. Everyone's happy that should be happy. Even the audience claps and as excited at their marriage and their confession of love. We got Donkey and the Dragon and everything, so it's a very nice way. And we even have a little end sequence where it's the song, which I think that kind of sets the precedent for the rest of the series, where like songs are a thing, especially in the end credits, which is awesome. But yeah, that's the movie. Great movie, like I said, away from the memes, like millennials and Zoomers, and all of us just loving Shrek because that's what we grew up with. Legitimately good movie. That definitely deserves to be up there, especially for the time period of one of the best movies to come out. I think that people might say it's overrated because of some of the just some of the fans of it, I guess, and how they talk about it, but really, really good movie in my opinion. Yeah, lots of good stuff there. Let me know what you think of the movie. Let me know how fast you want me to do the next ones, because I'm definitely up for it, especially since Shrek 2 is the one that everyone says is the best of the series. We'll see about that. We'll see if I like Shrek 2 more than Shrek 1. And yeah, I guess that's it. Let me know what your favorite comedic moment in this movie is, because I think there's a lot of them. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Let me know what other stuff you want to see me do. Like I said, cartoons and anime is the goal. Usually shows, but sometimes movies. Whether I've seen them or not, let me just know what you want to see. And that is everything. So until next time, just communication. Communication is key. It can stop you from almost marrying someone that you don't want to marry.